tell us what life was like for you as a child, a kind of brief synopsis, and then we'll look at how someone goes from that beginning to where you are now.
So growing up in Canada was really something like super beautiful, and also the contrast was completely something that I wasn't expecting, based off of what I saw from what society was kind of was standing, because there's a lot of cultures and there's a lot of different opinions and belief systems. The thing is that what I always noticed as a young boy is that society and paying attention to the news and the media and things, they were always like creating some sort of a problem. And what I realized is, like, my parents, they would really listen to that stuff, and it's not that they were doing anything wrong, they just didn't know any better, right? So I really paid attention to the way that they were able to be influenced by these narratives.
And that was from a really young age.
From a really young age. And it's interesting because I remember focusing on the feelings.
So you've always been a kinesthetic type of person.
100%. And so feeling is, to me, something that is way more real than thinking. But, we're so conditioned by society to be like, hey, no, like that intuitive behavior, that feminine nature that all of us actually have, which most people are very disconnected from. We're so told that, hey, it's not real, or, focus on the mind. But like, the mind is a tool if we can really tap into the feeling, and we can expand the feeling with our mind if we're coherent. What do I mean by that? I mean, can we bring our hearts and minds together, right? And so as a young boy, I was really curious about this. And so I was so curious about this and feeling so like an outsider, like it didn't make sense. Things didn't make sense. And I remember watching like movies, like things like The Lion King and things like that would make me inspired. Like things that would like make me like, wow, this is something so profound. It's so much more meaningful. Like, I can do that, And then I remember the mind would come in and say, like, how are you going to do that?
Yeah.
And, there's a beautiful thing that my teacher, Tony Robbins, really says is like, reasons comes first, answers come later. And so I didn't know this at the time, but of course I was very much following this inner being of mine, this inner feeling of mine that was really curious, that was really excited, that wanted to know more, didn't really understand the things that maybe the outside world was following. And so at a very young age, I got into drugs like crack cocaine and things around this nature to really... It was really to hide. It was really to get rid of the pain that society was telling me that I needed to be a part of, the suffering.
So at what age are we talking because this isn't just, a soft drug, this is a hard drug. At what age did you get into it? And was it hanging around with the wrong crowd, or are you actively seeking it out?
Yeah, so society tells so much of us that we like abundance is wealth, is money, is this and that. So at a young age, I was like already 13 and 14, I was already like, money, how can I make money? How can I make like it easier for my parents? What can I do to make money? Like, they immigrated from Poland to Canada, and, they were always like grinding. Like, and it seemed like it didn't matter how hard they worked, that they never could get ahead. And so for me, it was like, as a young boy, it's like, how can I figure this out? How can I figure like
frustration,
thinking of solutions, as a young boy.
See, this is fascinating because now, with the right knowledge, with the right people around you, that right network, and I always talk about, to be a success in any area of life, I believe everyone needs a good level of knowledge or education in that niche, that field. They need the right mindset to be able to manage it, but most importantly, the right network of people around them to nurture it. And as you say, it was through no fault of their own. Your parents, weren't used to dealing with this. They, like many other people, and how many people follow mainstream media, get all of their information from that, take it as gospel, and those who listen to the podcast regularly will know my thoughts around that and not following it. There's this huge, which is where the balance part is making sense to me, because there's this huge dichotomy between wanting to fit in, following the norms, following the status quo versus, but there's this feeling or this thing deep inside of me. So people may agree or disagree. I believe that we're going to touch upon this now, because you said obviously you got into drugs at a really young age, but you'd always wanted to kind of make more money, and that need and that desire is there. And I think nurtured in the right way, that's huge. I've got a 13-year-old who, you know, is buying and selling clothes on Vinted and Depop, and he's asking the right questions, and he's found himself a mentor, and that encouraged in the right way, I think, is phenomenal. However, at that point for you, you know, I believe that, did you move into selling of drugs? Because I'm trying to put two and two together here and go from there. This is how you then made the money. Yeah. I believe that drug dealers, rightly, I'm from a very rough place in Liverpool. I think some of the best entrepreneurial minds are actually drug dealers. They're very good.
That's how I started.
So you were making money at a really young age?
As a really young age as a drug dealer, and then eventually I started using.
Yes. Oh, so the money came first and the usage came second. Yeah. How then does someone go from, you know, did you get to full addict status?
100%.
We talked on the way here about hitting rock bottom. Tell us around how you then go, because for those who are sat and listening thinking, hold on, there's this person who's talking about being heart-centered, supporting businesses, really astute mind. How does someone go from being, you know, addicted to drugs, selling of drugs leading into addiction, to now being here? That must have been a, you know, you've got a long journey along the way. Tell us a little bit about how.
You know, it's funny. I actually shared like 17 today, actually, on one of my posts. I shared like 17 years ago, you know, I've been on this path of like clarity.
17 years.
17 years. I've been clean and like focused, you know, and it's interesting that you bring this up today, because I literally shared it in a post. So it's fascinating. And for me, the expression of me needing to get clean was not something that came from anybody except the faith of my parents. And so the faith of my parents had always been there, and their love had been unconditional. You see, I grew up in a very rich household, maybe not of money, but of love. And so, which is the ultimate wealth. And so that, even though I was addicted for 3 years to crack cocaine and disappearing and not knowing, my parents not knowing where I was, there was a question at one point, because multiple times I tried to have gone to rehab, but there was a question that my father had asked me that changed the narrative of my inner being, my soul. And he said, can you do this for your future self? And it's like something came out of me and willed me into taking the next step and going to rehab with him, getting, you know, involved and included. But, you know, it wasn't like it was easy, because I was so addicted. So we literally needed to, you know, bypass, you know, you had to take a urine test. My dad had to help me like with literally. And the counselor actually felt like, hey, this isn't warm. So like he needed to look at me, and I like basically begged for my, like, from the eyes, not like saying anything, from the energy, like, I need your help. Like, I really need help. And it was something that the counselor had felt and had allowed me to come through.
So has this led to you, because a lot of what you do is around feelings and connection and being heart-centered, as you mentioned, would that, you say that was kind of a catalyst there, because non-verbally there was a connection there, and he knew what you needed without, because look, let's be honest, there's a tick box exercise. You're in or you're out, you're not meeting the requirements. He could have very easily turned you away and it gone the other way. Do you think that was a timings thing? Do you think that was the connection with him? What do you think led to that?
It's energy. So people feel each other, right? And this is going back to understanding people. And like, there's an interconnection that we all hold, whether you believe it or not. You know, at the end of the day, there's an energy source that comes through all of us. And that ignition inside of us feels each other. We're mirrors of one another. And so he felt my need for his support in that moment.
At what age were you there?
19.
See, this is just unfathomable for, you know, the mum of a teenager now to think I'm fully encouraging him to be entrepreneurial and make more money and understand it. But everyone is just 1 or 2 decisions away from a completely different life. So that turning point for you, getting clean, 17 years, congratulations.
Thank you.
And how do you then go from being an addict to coming through rehab, and then like where's the starting process? What was the next step for you? Because there are undoubtedly going to be people who listen to the podcast who've either been in a similar position, have family members have experienced it, or you know, have other areas in their life where they maybe feel like they're a little bit different and don't know how to bring out the best version of them.
I really focused on being in a positive atmosphere, and so I found a job in like a really great space at Lululemon. So Chip Wilson's store, and really beautiful. And I remember when they just opened up, Chip came to the store, you know, really just expressing his energy, was really like kind and open and like loving. And it was amazing because it was before like it was $1 billion, you know, organization, you know, and that gave me the capacity. It was like really empowering. Is like you could see how everybody inside of this, like it really encouraged like people to like look after each other and themselves, you know, like healthy, happy, you know, nurturing and supportive. And this was like, it inspired me and it kept me going. I met a girl that like was the manager at that time, so she was like really good. And so and then I went back to school. I upgraded my schooling. I went to university, and then I started like really encouraging myself inside of university, where I worked as, you know, I was doing finance and in accounting, and I became the president of the accounting club, and I nurtured events and really focused on how I can support the student body to really help them find jobs. And because I was willing to kind of go out there and like share my energy and express it, it allowed me to then change the environment that I was in, and it helped other individuals, you know, get their own way of getting into these organizations. And so we did a tax clinic. We did a lot of things inside of school, and I really I wanted to make it easier for people that maybe didn't know how to express themselves or didn't feel comfortable yet. So I just wanted to always create that safe space.
Do you think that comes from being the child who felt they didn't fit in and maybe kind of feeling a little bit uncomfortable and not knowing, you know, how best to utilize that or how best to nurture it, that there's been a driver inside of you that now sees that in other people? Because there's a lot of threads and a lot of themes through what you're saying in terms of what you do now, you know, helping businesses to create a culture and create that, you know, desire to succeed, a oneness, if you like, of everyone coming together, which is something that you're replicating from a job, you know, when you were 19. Has that always been a bit of a theme in terms of what you do?
Yeah, like, I mean, family is everything to me. And I feel like family, community, organizations, nations, the planet, you know, the universe, we're all like family. Like, we can really cultivate this sense of family as like taking care of each other. And it doesn't matter your belief systems, the way that, you know, your map of the world. Really, at the end of the day, we're humans. And it's really a beautiful expression of just like taking care of one another and treating another person as you want to be treated. And I think that when people feel safe and when people feel vulnerable and authentic, they really tap into their creative genius. And when people can tap into their creative genius, they can really fulfill their destiny, because it's in those moments of decision that our destiny becomes determined.
And isn't that interesting? Because those decisions that you made, the decision to move into, you know, use of illegal substances, sale of illegal substances, but it actually changed the trajectory. Do you believe you would be the person you are today if you hadn't have been through that and hit rock bottom?
Absolutely not.
What did rock bottom look like for you and for those people who may be? Because one thing that I always want to do with the podcast is have active things that people can learn from. And we never know what's going on behind closed doors. And quite often, you know, the people who seem like they've got their stuff together and, you know, they seem like everything's just easy for them, are quite often the ones who are struggling the most. And those who maybe are perceived by the outside world as failures or unsuccessful are often the happiest people. So how then do we help those people? What if someone is facing rock bottom or facing real tough decisions, because, you know, your destiny can go one way or the other in on the flip of a coin? How can you leverage what you've done to help those people? So if someone is facing rock bottom now or maybe feels like they're there, what would you say to those people?
I would say get around people that can encourage you, inspire you, focus on the solutions around you, because those are the people that are going to help you recognize the value that you bring to the table. And it doesn't matter whether you have nothing in your pocket or you don't believe that you have any pocket. Who you are, the fact that you're merely alive and existing already makes you absolutely abundant. And so all you need to do is follow that like inkling, that spark, that desire, that hunger, that passion in your heart of what you really love to do. And as a result of that, continue to get around the people that have been there before, read the books that they've written, hang out, listen to the podcasts that they've said, spend time around individuals that are doing the things that you really want to do, and ask tons of questions. Because questions, the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your relations, the quality of your life, and the quality of your circumstances. And as a result, you will start to drive yourself into that narrative of what's possible.